freelancers versus agencies versus in-house. What's the best option? Most companies choose on panic, budgets, or politics. We're going to get into it. Ben, how's it going?
Hi, Julius. Obviously very good. And that's a very, very nice topic. I really like to speak about this. We yesterday had an internal training.
Yes, we did.
And I saw you and we spoke about this with the whole team. And I think it's very, very interesting because this is something that a lot of marketing leaders know from the past, or they currently ask themselves, what's the right option for them to operate? What's probably the best option for a good return on ad spend?
Mm-hmm.
And I really love to speak about this. It's probably not a really long session today because you can't talk about this for 2 hours.
Yeah, no.
It's very simple, but probably it's also simple because I already answered this question 500 times probably in my life.
Yeah. But I guess it's also changing with time and changing with the client demands or setup. So let's maybe start with just the pros and cons of each of them. Maybe set us off with the freelancers.
So I think a freelancer is generally very good if you have a specific niche topic that you want to have sorted, and it should be sorted very good.
Yeah.
Niche topic can be, I want to have someone setting up my tracking. I want to have someone coming up with, let's say, 10 new creatives. I want to produce videos. I mean, video production, when you look at a classic video testimonial, that's obvious. You shouldn't hire someone, and you probably don't need a large agency for that. You can just record that with the freelancer, and there are a lot of good freelancers out there.
Yeah.
Very, very good. What are the benefits of working with the freelancer? You don't have this person on a payroll. You're very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You can just book the freelancer for 2 days or for 1 week, and afterwards you just go your way and the freelancer goes his way.
Yep.
That's very efficient.
But it can be quite risky as well, right? If you're only putting all your eggs in one basket with one person, he can get another client, lose his touch with up-to-date strategies.
Definitely. I think the big risk in working with a freelancer is, and now I think we have a very good example in this. So when you work with a freelancer for your Google ads, for your LinkedIn advertisement, the freelancer, if he wants to earn more money, typically can scale this to some distinct with the hourly rate he charges, but that is quite limited. So the freelancer will not be able to charge 10 times more than the average on the market. So what is he scaling if he's not scaling the hourly rate?
Yeah, his time is overtime. Really.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. He's scaling his time. So let me give you one scenario that I see very often. Freelancer gets his first job, starts to freelance. Obviously, he gets short contracts because no one wants to have a freelancer with a 24-month contract. That's not the reason why you choose a freelancer.
Yeah.
So you have a 1 month cancellation period, or maybe 2 or 3. Obviously, the freelancer is scared to lose the client. So what will he do? Take on another client. Now he has 2 clients. He's still worried. He still wants to earn more money. He works already 50 hours per week. What does he do? Take on another client.
Yeah.
Now he has 3 clients, works 75 hours per week. And the resources you have to really deliver are probably, when you want to have high creative sessions and really good outcome, you probably have 40 hours per week. So this means that, and this example is really what happens with 8 out of 10 freelancers. They are a lot under pressure, sometimes worried about losing one client, so they take on another client. And obviously for you as a client, it can be that your job is done in the 80 to 90 hours. And this will probably not have the expected result. So that's the big, let's call it the big risk in collaborating with a freelancer. But obviously, you have also the upsides that we spoke about already.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the freelancer covered. How does it look like for an agency? I guess there's a lot less of those risks that you've just described. The whole team can fill in or scale much more easily than one single person of a freelancer.
Definitely. So, I mean, I personally love the agency business. So, I'm maybe quite biased. This should be actually highlighted at this point.
Of course.
But the reason why companies choose agencies for larger projects, or if it's not just a tiny pilot or something, is because you have experts from different
Mm-hmm.
subjects, and you can get all of these experts within one contract. So let's say you want to expand to a new country, you need a Google Ads expert, you need a copywriter, you need a videographer, you need a tracking expert, you maybe want to build landing pages. You will be limited very quickly if you work with a single freelancer, either in the results, so the artifacts he deliver, or in general services he can offer. So those are the two options, and you better are services limited, then you have bad results. But an agency can offer this group of experts and has a lot of exchange from different collaborations. So you really, as a client, in a lot of cases, you really benefit from the agency. I mean, comparing it to in-house, which is probably the next question.
Yeah.
In-house, you have also some benefits. Building up a culture, obviously you need people. But the question is, how much bundled experience from different experts can you actually develop in-house? And how likely is it that they will have a pace to really stick to cutting-edge learnings on the market? So when you have, let's say, an agency, and the agency, like Media Charge, we have about 45 collaborations ongoing. If you look at all these collaborations and you have learnings from different colleagues, and you have a very, very good exchange within the company, this is something you will not have if you build things up in-house. And you can just take one or two examples. An agency, if you want to do a tracking setup, the agency does this every week, multiple times maybe even. So this is something that can be done on a very, very good level with an incredible service standard. If you do it in-house, well, you probably do it once a year. So tricky. Video production, same. Ramping up campaigns, creating a creative strategy for LinkedIn, for YouTube. You have this repetition in an agency, and you will probably not get this in-house. So this is the reason why it's not just for small or medium, even enterprises typically prefer agencies, because they know that the delivery is far more standardized. And when you look at the general outcomes, you need both sides. So you can't, and this is where it sometimes gets a little bit tricky, you can't just let an agency operate on their own, because you obviously need good guidance. You need someone who is really super familiar with the company vision, with all these things that resonate 100% with what you do in marketing. So you need both, actually. Just going to an agency and saying you have the job, you do everything, not such a good idea. But doing everything internally, now speaking about all these things I've already mentioned, probably also not a good idea. So you really need to have a balance in-house and agency capacities.
And I guess that's a standard model that we see with a lot of our larger clients, right? They keep those coordination and cross-agency steering capabilities in-house and outsource all those repetitive operational tasks to an agency.
Definitely. And it makes sense. So sometimes I see that companies are building up everything in-house. And I've experienced it often that it was a lot driven by some leaders' ego,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously they want to build their own team, and someone wants to tell their friends, yeah, I've got 45 direct reports or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
these incredible numbers that sound like you're successful. But I've seen it many, many, many times that they shift back then and say, okay, it's super tricky to keep pace with what's happening on the market. Our
Mm-hmm.
service isn't as good as it could be if we had an agency, and very often they shift back then. So this is something that specifically startups do a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because startups, they want to be like super big and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and enterprise, they notice for many, many, many years that having both, you should have internal marketers very familiar with the product, with the vision, all these things, but you should also have the experts. So that's, I think,
Mm-hmm.
the very my recommendation also when someone asks me from our clients, what should we do internally, what should we do outsource.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very transparent about that. You shouldn't outsource the whole marketing. That's not a good idea. You should always
Mm-hmm.
have ownership internally. Very, very
Mm-hmm.
important.
I guess it also adds not just culture internally, but also just wait for internal decisions, right? If the marketing department is only one person, he will not really have the power to steer company strategy internally as much as maybe the product department with 100 plus full-time employees.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So, or maybe just one last question. In consulting, it's also often the case that management is going for an external opinion or hiring an external consultancy when they want to lean on an external opinion that they can depend on because the brand has some certain trust, etc.
Do you really try to find the right words? Huh?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. You can say that a lot more easy.
So how do you avoid this as an agency, that you're just kind of the person that makes the decisions and then in the end sometimes gets the blame? How do you really build a strong strategic partnership with the client to get him on board and into every decision?
Well, the agency business is a part of the consulting market,
Mm-hmm.
but the consulting projects that you just speak about are typically projects with a start date and an end date. At least a planned end date. It can be extended or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's typically that they have a start and an end date. At least it's planned.
Yeah.
And I think in consulting you have these situations where the management just, they don't want to be the boo man.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be nice to their staff, but some decisions have to be made and they actually don't want to take ownership for that because they are not sure if it works, so they want to have someone else taking the ownership. And then you go to a large strategy consulting firm, you actually know what you want to do, but you tell them, I do the research, could you please present me these slides? And then you say, oh wow, we have to shut down this manufacturing place. All right, they told us. And then the company goes bankrupt and you say, well, they told us. That's one case.
That's the extreme.
That's a very extreme case,
yeah.
but you can break things down. It's often that they don't want to fully be the owners of.
Yeah.
Actually, they want to get the buy-in from others also. So they want to do something, but just saying, okay, we want to shut down the place, it's probably not a good approach. They want to have some arguments to get the buy-in. And I think that this is not often the case in the agency industry, because you typically handle also on a monthly basis budgets. These budgets should generate a positive return on ad spend. So it's in everyone's interest to find a way to generate a good return on ad spend, short term, mid term, or long term. And if you're not planning long term as an agency, you don't really have a chance to succeed. And my personal opinion is that as an agency, you should ensure that you're never taking on one of these deals where you think that you have to deliver only quick wins that are actually not moving the company in the right direction. So I think the answer is agencies should think about where they want to invest their time and what they believe is a good collaboration to have long-term impact on the clients.
And maybe where they also have the freedom to bring the real best strategy to the client and are not driven by management preferences or personal agendas.
It's both. It's both. You, as an agency, you can't just say, well, this is the strategy, we do it. You always have to,
of course,
give a recommendation, and then maybe you can follow 20% your recommendation, and you follow 80% the client's wish to proceed. Or it's the other way around. It really depends on what the client wants, but typically you have a share of what's actually on the roadmap.
Okay. Nice. No, thanks for those explanations. I think that covered the topic pretty well.
I hope so.
Leave some questions down below if we left anything open. So thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Julius.
And
Have
see
a
you
nice
next week.
evening. Bye-bye.